So, in the global race to build the future of computing, you've got some countries making a whole lot of noise. But today, we're looking at a nation that's taking a completely different path. Okay, let's dive into the quiet, deliberate, and frankly, fascinating quantum strategy of Vietnam.
And this quote, it just nails it. You see, while other nations are out there chasing headlines with huge investments, Vietnam is playing a totally different game. Their silence isn't a sign of inactivity, it's pure strategy.
So that's the million-dollar question, right? What are they actually building in all this silence? Let's unpack what this quiet approach really looks like on the ground, and more importantly, where it's all headed.
First up, a deliberately quiet race. To really get what Vietnam is doing, you have to understand the mindset behind it all. This quietness isn't some accident, it is a very, very conscious choice.
So what's the end game here? Well, it's not about chasing the boom and bust cycle of the latest tech hype. Nope, the focus is much, much deeper. It's about building genuine scientific credibility and creating long-term technological resilience. You can think of it as a key pillar in their whole vision for digital sovereignty.
So how does a quiet strategy actually translate into action? That brings us right to Section 2, the domestic blueprint. This is where the real work is happening, far away from the international spotlight. And let's be clear, this isn't some small, fringe academic project. This effort is being spearheaded by two major government players, the Ministry of Science and Technology, or MOST, and the Vietnam Academy of Science and Technology, VAST. Having them lead the charge, well, that signals serious centralized planning from the top.
What's so smart about their approach is the focus. Instead of trying to do everything all at once, they've zeroed in on three core pillars: quantum computing and simulation, which is mostly for things like material science, quantum communication for building secure infrastructure, and quantum sensing, which has some really interesting applications like in smart agriculture.
And this is not just theory, okay? The plan is already in motion. I mean, just this year, they've launched a national research network and a fellowship program for young talent. With a formal roadmap expected by 2026, you can literally see the pieces methodically falling into place.
So who's doing the work? Right now, the academic community is really the engine room. Universities are expanding their programs and doing all that foundational research. On the flip side, the private sector is just starting to wake up. You've got big names like FPT Software and Viettel beginning to connect with the universities, but the momentum, it's still building. There's a gap for sure, but it's slowly starting to close.
But look, a domestic plan alone isn't enough, especially with limited resources. And that brings us to the next, crucial piece of the puzzle. Section 3, building global bridges.
This is where the strategy gets really clever. Vietnam is actively using its diplomatic relationships, its credibility on the world stage, as a tool. It's a bridge, right? A way to get access to the expertise, the funding, and the infrastructure that it doesn't quite have at home yet.
And they are making their presence felt everywhere that matters. By participating in everything from regional forums to the Global South Quantum Alliance, they are getting a seat at the table. This lets them help shape global standards and build influence long before they even have a massive domestic industry. And beyond these big forums, they're forging deep, direct partnerships with key countries. We're not just talking handshakes here. These are concrete collaborations. Think PhD exchanges and shared lab infrastructure with nations like France, Japan, Korea, and Singapore.
Okay, so it sounds like a pretty solid plan. But to get the full picture, we have to be realistic. So let's take a look at some of the cracks in the foundation.
The situation is really a study in contrasts. I mean, Vietnam has some incredible assets, a strong tradition in math, a young and digitally fluent population, and real diplomatic clout. But the challenges are just as real. There's no dedicated national funding mechanism. They have limited access to hardware, and there's that persistent problem of brain drain, where your top talent leaves for bigger opportunities abroad.
So when you weigh all those strengths against the weaknesses, where is this whole thing heading? Well, that's what we're going to cover in our final section, the 2030 Outlook.
So what are the key signals of progress you should be watching for? Well, we should see their national strategy become official. That'll be followed by practical government pilot programs in areas like cybersecurity. And the next step after that will be targeted investment in specialized centers of excellence, applying quantum tech to key industries like agriculture and pharmaceuticals.
And this really gets to the core of their ambition. Vietnam's goal isn't to take on the US or China for global dominance. The aim is far more strategic and, honestly, much more achievable. To become a regional leader known for its focus, its integrity, and its credible, steady progress.
This quote really just summarizes the entire philosophy. In a world obsessed with splashy announcements, Vietnam is choosing a different path. It's a quiet, serious, and methodical approach that's all about building real, lasting capability.
And that leaves us with one final, powerful question to chew on. In a world completely obsessed with tech hype, could this kind of quiet, patient credibility actually be the ultimate competitive advantage? It's a fascinating thought, and Vietnam's journey might just give us the answer.